What's up, couch potatoes? In this episode, we're going to talk about ghost-type Pokemon.
Now, we're here looking for Gengar. Gengar are very dangerous Pokemon because they like to hide in your shadow and then leap out you and capture you as their prey. We're trying to catch one that the locals have found so that way we can take it back to a ghost-type preserve.
Hey, you sure this is safe?
You'll be fine! They like to curse both Pokemon and people, and the reason they're so dangerous is because they feed off their life force. So we're gonna need to catch it before anything bad happens.
Let's talk about Totodile Hunter. If you're new to the channel, I made a short about 2 years ago called The Most Dangerous Pokemon. What if Steve Irwin took place in the Pokemon universe with a lot of creative liberties, but it was my test for animating characters. And that video popped off. It became the most popular video on all of my channels, so I did start working on a sequel. However, just because life keeps getting in my way and I'm not really good at juggling all of these different projects that I like to do, it is taking forever to make the second one. What I decided to do is I'm gonna go ahead and just upload each scene as it gets done as YouTube Shorts, and then we'll have the full screen compilation on the film channel. You will get Totodile Hunter. It is happening. It's just taking me a good solid minute. So in this video, I'm going to break down the Gengar scene that we made. So if you saw the YouTube short, I'm going to go over the general workflow, and then you can adapt it into other programs because HitFilm is no longer available, which kind of blows. All right, so the way I did this shot here, we have 3 different things going on. Now we have the license plate here. This is just a point that I animated. I used a tracking point to track in a point layer, so that way everything is linked to that point anyway, because we're not moving in Z space or 3D space. So once I was done with that, I just went over to my footage, got my witness protection effect, pretty much went over to the position page, use layer, selected the license plate point layer, then I just moved it over to the license plate, and then it just tracks. So not having to worry about that anymore. The next big thing is Gengar. Now, Gengar is a mix of a bunch of different stuff. I have 4 different effects for Gengar on top of a mask. So if I turn off that mask, I went into Blender and pretty much only animated his body and his mouth for this shot because I knew I wanted this to be more of like a Cheshire Cat kind of a deal. It didn't need to be super crazy. So once I had him in my shot, I went ahead and rotoscoped just his face. Once I was done with that, the next thing I did was I changed his opacity and animated it to go away as he moved backward to disappear. The other thing I did with his blend mode is instead of having it as normal, I'll turn off the mask to show you, I set it to add. So everything that's darker becomes transparent. Then I added a curves effect to add more contrast and try to blend him in the scene. I felt like the final render was a little too gray, so I used this to be able to turn on the purple. I added an angle blur, so if I zoom in here, you can see the difference. Because I didn't want him to be too clean when we shot this. It was a little blurry, not anything crazy. But then I went ahead and added film grain on top of him. So without and with, because I felt like the footage was already really noisy. So I added some noise back in, and then you apply the mask. And that's how I did the Cheshire Cat shot. Now we have the screaming shot where the camera whips around and you see him flying towards you. The goal with this one is to make the Pokemon look more realistic. So this is what the render looks like out the gate. You can see I actually animated it. The original animation, he's just coming straight toward the camera. From Blender. Using this light streak as reference, I just kind of kept him under that as best as I could, so it looked like he was coming from that direction. We started off with, blend mode, add, to get rid of those darker colors and make it more transparent. because I wanted you to be able to see through him, but I didn't want it to be half opacity. If we only changed his opacity, you would lose that glow in his eyes and that brightness. So to accentuate that, I used add. Curse effect to help better match him to the scene, but then once I added that, I felt like he was too dark and you lost Gengar's silhouette. You see his face and not much else. So in order to make sure that people knew that it was a Gengar, I added a faint outer glow effect, which is kind of similar to how the ghosts in Ghostbusters look. And then I added an angle blur. If I open it up, you'll see that I animated the angle and I animated the length using this light streak as my reference point. If I were to go do this shot again, I followed a tutorial for a basic skin texture. I don't know, more detail in his skin. I mean, he's a ghost and he's like plasma and mist. I just knew I just wanted to stray away from the Detective Pikachu live action Gengar. But that skin texture went also around his teeth and around his tongue. And I'm still learning how to do like texture paints where you can use red, blue, and green to go make it this texture. I didn't learn that until the next scene. Yeah, I don't want to figure out how to make it like an actual tongue. I have a higher appreciation for people who make their own characters from scratch. You guys are insane and you're awesome. And that's how we did the Gengar effect. It was just an animation in Blender that we ported over into HitFilm. We rendered it as a PNG image sequence and then brought it in, and then that's how we composited Gengar into the shot. You can follow for more, and if you want to see us do another breakdown for the next Pokemon scene, then subscribe. All right. Bye, everybody.